Thank you. Good morning. My name is Sandra Lopez, and I'm an information officer with the Southwest Area Incident Management Team. And we have some of our team members here this morning to provide an update. We have Jay Lusher, who's our operations section chief. We have Don Howard, who is one of our liaison officers. And we have B. Day, who is our incident commander. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Jay to provide a fire update.
Good morning, everyone. So as Grady said, the Whitewater fire has been out here for quite some time. Grew quite a bit with some of the eastern winds that came up previously. And since that time, it's slowly worked its way north through the wilderness. The Little Devil fire showed up in another batch of lightning that came through that started many of the other fires that are in the complex that our team is managing. So in addition to the Whitewater, Little Devil, and Scorpion fires, we're also responsible for about 10 additional fires down in the McKenzie River Ranger District down there, the Rebel, Separation Avenue, a bunch of those fires down there. So our team is spread out over a wide area to accomplish that. We're going to continue to see growth on the Whitewater fire on this north end. That's what the modeling shows us. We use a lot of science. We take the fuels that are out there. We have digital fuel layers that go in, and then we put that through computer algorithms to see where we anticipate fire going. And the Whitewater fire does show continued growth to the north there. Little Devil fire mostly shows it growing to the south with very limited growth to the north. The big uncertainty with all of that, as I know all of you are very familiar with, is the easterly winds that come in the fall here. And so we're looking to model that as well as we can. It's very difficult to do. And with that, we're also looking to be as prepared as we can for any of those events to happen. So we have some good solid pieces of fire line around. We're actually going to turn a portion of this black today. And so the black means that we have containment line on the fire. So that's on the southern edge. And then starting to progress north on the western edge up along the private timber company property there. That solid black means we've been able to mop up. We think the threat of the fire getting out of our containment lines is very minimal. It's not an absolute until we get a change in the weather, but we think the threat is minimal. And we're feeling really good about that. We're limited in resources. There's a lot of other fires going on in Oregon and in the western states overall. There's a huge amount of fires now in western Montana, Washington, northern and central California. So we have a very limited amount of resources. We're being very diligent about how we place those resources. So in these areas on the southern end that we feel secure, we're putting that down to a monitor status with just a few resources to keep eyes out on it during the day. And we're shifting more resources around, mostly onto the Scorpion fire. We do have primary, alternate, and contingency containment lines around this general area, kind of just south and west of Devil's Peak. And the way that we work that is if our primary lines, if the conditions allow, the fire gets close there, we may be able to burn out those lines. And what we're looking for is our highest probability of success. We don't want to put a lot of fire back into the environment with the resources we have and the potential weather ahead. So we're watching the fire very closely to see when it progresses to some trigger points that would allow us to engage those primary containment lines. And if we have a wind event that we don't catch the fire, that's for those alternate contingency lines, either additional spot fires or unanticipated movement. While we have time, we want to be as prepared as possible for the fire threats. And the biggest reasons that we're out here is to protect the values that are at risk. And we're working for the local forest here, and they've given us a list of the values. And so that includes the summer homes that all you folks have, along with the communities that are around here, Detriot and Idana, the private timber company values, along with the natural and cultural values that are identified on the forest. So we're working very closely with the district and the resource advisors here to work to not impact those resources as much as possible as we put in our potential containment lines and move ahead. I think the biggest thing overall is going to be that fire is going to be on the landscape for a long time. We know that the rains aren't coming in the near future. You're going to see a few more of these incident management teams come through. We tend to work about a 2-week stint before we're relieved and get to go home and get a little bit of rest. So you'll see more come in. once the rains come, things will change. But with the extremely dry conditions over the forest overall, we're just not able to get in there and get engaged in these fires up close, which is a normal piece of business for this forest in this area. But we're heavily looking at where we think the potential is. We're looking at the values that you folks have and setting ourselves up to contain those fires without impacting those values. So with that, I'll turn it over to B.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So Jay does a really good job of really giving you the big picture of what's going on, especially on the ground here. But I'll add into a little bit more of what we're dealing with. So Jay had mentioned that the fire activity, it's really unprecedented, I think, for this part, these large fires. So it's Northern California, Pacific Northwest, Idaho, and now not only with that, we've got the Hurricane Harvey, and we could have Hurricane Irma depending on what happens with that. So when Jay talks about resources, what we mean are crews, their dozers, their hand crews, their everything that takes to even support what we're doing out on the ground. We have quite a bit of logistical supplies. We've got the caterers, we've got the showers. All of that stuff is really being tapped to their limits on all of this stuff. So that's kind of what we're up against too. So our intent as a team coming in to help Grady, to help Brandon, is really to provide information to you. I think there's been some struggles to try and get the information out, but I think we're trying to get ahead of that. Sandra will make sure that you know where to go to get the best source of information, the current information that we can get, and then we'll have to work through this until we get some sort of a weather change. That's reality, and Jay mentioned that, and what our primary mission, because I have a delegation from the forest, from Grady's part of managing this incident, and in that, it's the safety of the firefighters and safety of the public. So that is my responsibility, and I appreciate your patience as we work through this, especially as we've gone into different evacuation levels with you. I know that impacts your life, but it is my responsibility to make sure that we keep people safe as we work through this. So I'll hand it over to Sandra, and then